Hi students, I'm back and this is part 2 of your homework. I'm sorry I had to do 2 parts, but I had to stop because someone came to my door during planning. So now I'm working on part 2. I hope that your parents told you, but I said on my remind message tonight that you only have to do numbers 1 through 5 on the practice, but you must do every other part. I want you to do the right. I want you to do this, all of the stretch. Oops, there it is. All of the stretch, and you need to also do all of the review. Okay, but I'm giving you a break on the practice because that's a lot of practice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I believe I might have done number 1 on the first video, so I'm going to go down and do one that isn't on your homework that you have to do. I'm going to do number 6, so this will be helpful. So number 6, I have 1.98. Pen is acting funny. Let's try this again. 1.98, and I'm going to change it to a fraction because I like all my decimals as fraction form. So I'm going to put a wall or door up, and it becomes 1, and then 98 over 100. The 0.23 is 0. Again, I put my wall, and it's 23 over 100. Then we have just 0. And then we have 1.89, which that would be 89 over 100. And then we have 1 3/5 already in fraction form. And then I have 1 2/2, which would be 2 over 100. And then last I have 3 over 2. Okay, so you can use the benchmark fraction to help you categorize these in least to greatest form. I definitely know that I want to look at the zeros first because they're the smallest. Some of you might say, well, 3 over 2 is like having 0, but it's technically not. 3 over 2 is an improper fraction, so I can change it to 1. My pen is messing up. To change it to 1 and 1/2. Okay, so now again I'm going to go back and look at my zeros. I have 0 and 23/100 or just 0. 0 is going to be my smallest because you have 0 and nothing else, like no change. Where 0 and 23 over 100 is like you have $0 but you have 23 cents, so at least you have something. So I'm going to go back to number 6 and I'm going to list 0 first. I think my pen is dying. It is less than the 0. It's less than the 0.23. Yes, my pen has officially died. Hold on. Plug it in for a second. I'll help it out. So next is going to be the 0.23. After I usually write down a number, I usually try to cross it off so I know I've used it. There we go. So I'm going to cross off these zeros. Okay. Next, I'm going to look at my ones. I have 1 98/100, 1 89/100, 1 200, 1 3/5, and 1 1/2. Well, I know the 1 1/2 can easily be converted to 1 50 over 100 because that is the same as a half. The 1 3/5, if you were listening in class, I talked to you guys about the fabulous fifths today. So when you see a 5 on the bottom, you can sing your song. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? The fifths, the fifths, the fabulous fifths. So if it says 3/5, you go to the third number, 0.6, and so 3/5 is the same as 0.6. So this would equal 1.6, or 1/60/100. Now I'm ready to rock and roll. I've got everything I need. So what would be the least out of 1 and 98 hundredths, 1 and 89 hundredths, 1 and 60 hundredths, or 1 and 50 hundredths? Oops, I even missed this one over here. 1 and 2 hundredths. Right here, I missed him. So the smallest would be the 1 and 2 hundredths. So I'm going to go over to my list. I'm going to write that number next. Change the color so you can kind of see the difference. And that would be 1.02. You want to keep it in its original form. So now I'm going to cross them out because I used it. Then it'd be the 1 and 50 hundredths, which would be the 3/2. Next, cross it off. Next is going to be the 1 and 60 hundredths, which the original form was 1 3/5. Cross it off. Then we have the 1 and 89 hundredths, which would be the 1.89. Cross it off. And last but not least, we have the 1 and 98 hundredths, which would be 1.98. So I'm just going to double check that I've got all my numbers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I go back and see if I got all those numbers down in my original problem. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there you have it. I've listed all my numbers in my problem number 6 from least to greatest. I first changed everything over to fractions, and then I tried to make equivalent fractions. So I made them all over 100. I hope this helps you for tonight's homework. The stretch, you can do your comparison. It said just do not find a common denominator. So you could do a couple things. You could, let me zoom out, kind of cut it off here. But number 1, I'll write it up above. It says 13/3. And then 17/4. So you can look at it as, you can do the benchmark, but these are all improper, so that might make it a little bit more difficult. So maybe you can also do cross multiplication. That would also help you, or you can change them and divide into a mixed number. I think the cross multiplication might be the easiest way. So I'm going to do 3 times 17, which gives me 51. And then 4 times 13 gives me 52. Which one would be greater? The 52. So 13/3 would be the greater fraction. So on number 1, you would write, I don't know if I can zoom in close enough. That's as close as I can get. You would put the greater than sign towards 13/3. On the back, you have review. I want you to be thinking of multiples when you are working these problems out. So remember, multiples are when you're counting by a number. So if I ask you for the multiples of 4, you'd list 4 times 1, which is 4, 4 times 2, which is 8, 4 times 3, which is 12, 4 times 4, which is 16, and so on. Now, if I was asking you about a common multiple, a lot of times they'll say the words, I'm looking for, they might say the words like the same time, or when would they be lined up, like I see in number 1, that would be like a common multiple. So if I had, let's say, 6 here. So I was asking you, when would 4 and 6 be at the same time or the same rotation? Then you would find a common multiple. So I would be counting by 6's. So 6 times 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Oh, I have a common multiple, which would be 12. So be thinking of multiples when you do review. Also, when you're determining the sum or the difference, you're finding a common denominator, which basically is you're finding a common multiple that you can use for the bottom number. The denominators have to be the same in order to add or subtract your numbers. I'll see you tomorrow. I want 100% homework tomorrow, and so work extra hard tonight. You had an easy assignment last night. Have a good night.